Man, happy Thursday, TJ. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. And on today's episode, we're going to deep dive into the offseason of our division, the NFC North. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. Right there is Mr. TJ Hopkins, my co-host. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I also shared the link to our myriad of streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. So if you do happen to miss us live, you can catch us on all of those platforms. That link is in the chat on all of our platforms. We go live basically every single day on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. We're also on those streaming platforms. So, yeah, continue checking us out. And, TJ, this is our division, man. We've already did the Chicago Bears episode. You may have missed that show. I will share the link to that episode as well, so you can keep up with all of that content. But, yeah, this is the North. It's the Green Bay Packers. It's the Minnesota Vikings. It's the Detroit Lions. And it for sure feels like a changing of the guard is happening here with the NFC North as Green Bay, you know.
I know.
Yeah, but the CEO of Prime Sports World, obviously a big Green Bay Packers fan. He'll be joining the show here eventually. So he's doing a good deed right now. So shout out to him for
shout out to him.
Yeah, take care of the business. I'm gonna flip over. Let me flip these slides around though, because I know he wants to talk about the Packers. So we'll just change up the order a little bit here, so we don't have to. We don't cover the Packers while he's not here. Let's talk about the first team we want to talk about, which is the Detroit Lions. Finished with a winning record there. Their draft capital, they got the 6th overall pick from the Los Angeles Rams. They also have their own 1st overall pick. They were basically a chin away from making the playoffs this season. Really, a turnaround that was really impressive. They have their own pick in the 2nd round. They also have Minnesota's pick as part of the TJ Hockenson trade. I don't know why they have a 6th round pick from Denver, but they do. They're notable free agents right there on the screen. Jamal Williams, the master of the touchdown last year, broke a Barry Sanders record last season. DJ Shark, a good wide receiver. Alex Anzalone, a solid middle linebacker. Deshaun Elliott, safety. Mike Hughes, a serviceable corner. They have $13.2 million in cap space. Head coach Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Rod Wood. So if you're the Detroit Lions, how are you approaching the free agency and the NFL draft? Is it because it feels like this team might be a tad bit ahead of schedule?
Offensively.
Yeah, for sure offensively, but it just feels like the timeline they've jumped a little bit on the timeline. Like, where people thought they'd be at this point.
Well, fun free agency. Jesus Christ. Okay, I got the XFL on, and I am just loving the orange jerseys that the Seattle Sea Dragons are wearing right now. It's very eye-opening. It's very eye-popping. It's like, it's one of those, like, it grabs your attention. Like it's one of those because the helmets are orange.
Like the color rush jerseys that the NFL tried.
No.
I'm gonna put the XFL on after.
You got to see it. You got to see it. So because they're doing the orange and white combo. Like the pants are white, so they're not all orange. But anyway, all right. So if I'm the Detroit Lions, the first thing I do, like, I got to bring back Jamal Williams, like, because he was such a solid running back for them. He led the league in touchdowns. Like, I brought up the stat all the time. Like, I think he scored like 13 or so odd touchdowns in 4 years with the Green Bay Packers. He blew that out the water in 1 year with the Lions. Like, that is insane. Defensively is where this team lacked. Sort of speak.
Like, especially at the edge rusher. I know Aiden Hutchinson came out really strong towards the end of the season there, but at the beginning of the year, their pass rush was basically non-existent, and they were giving up tons of ground. Through the air, they gave up tons of ground to the ground. So, this was a Swiss cheese defense, to say the least.
Yeah, so it's like offensively, they gonna put on the show. Like,
and they've helped revive Jared Goff's career. Maybe people thought he'd come to Detroit. He'd just be an afterthought. Yeah, like, I wouldn't say die. I mean, that seems a little
no. Like, let's be honest. Detroit does not have a good track record of being a good franchise. We legit thought Matt Stafford. They had us thinking Matt Stafford wasn't a good quarterback. Right? I remember when the Matt Stafford trade broke to the Rams. We were doing the show. You asked me what do we think of the Matt Stafford era in Detroit? What did I say? It left much to be desired.
It's true. I mean, you have the weapon. I mean, but the defense was always the kind of the Achilles heel for the Detroit Lions. They could always score points.
They could always score points, and
they just never could stop anyone from scoring. And on their roster, you look at the depth chart there. They could really use another corner. I know Jeffrey Okudah had a solid season this year, but I still think they need a true number one.
I think they need a guy to collapse the pocket. I think their edge rush is set for the next 10 years. You got.
I agree. James Houston had 8 sacks in 8 games last season. Isaiah Buggs was a solid player down the stretch here for them, who could play defensive tackle a little bit.
And so, I can't help but think back to that defense that had Nick Farley and Ndamukong Suh right next to each other, and it's just, it just could like. We thought about it's the same thing like with Darius Slay. Like you got this lockdown dude and Darius Slay, but Darius Slay never got the love he properly deserved playing for Detroit because I'm just one dude.
Yeah,
I can only do so much with my side of the field, right? I agree with you. Like with Jeff Okudah, like especially coming off that injury he had, like that was tough. Like and he's still really. He's probably just now feeling quote unquote back to normal. Because you already know my philosophy. That first season off of injury, you don't train, you rehab.
Yeah, that's true.
You rehab to get back on the field. Now that you have a full off season where you're not hurt, you can fully focus on your training like you're supposed to. Now we can do a little different. Obviously, when you traded Jared Goff, when you traded Matt Stafford to the Rams, you didn't think you'd be getting the 6th overall pick. Right, you thought this would be like you thought that would be your pick, right? We legit think the roles would be reversed, right? Like you would have
100%
6th overall pick, and then the 18th overall pick or whatever, the later round pick would be from the Rams. I talked about it earlier. I've seen too many mock drafts with them getting one of these quarterbacks, and I'm
also seeing a bunch of mock drafts where they have the Lions trading up with the Houston Texans. In order to facilitate this like podcast, right? I joined a bunch of groups, like a bunch of public groups for a bunch of different teams, because and share this podcast into the group chats with those teams. Like all of the Houston Texans people think that like the Seattle Seahawks are going to trade up to get the 2nd overall pick, or like the Lions are going to be trading. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. Because it doesn't make sense. I
mean, unless Geno Smith leaves in free agency, which you already know that before the draft, but like I just can't imagine Lions trading up, especially not like for a quarterback. I think Jared Goff is going to be the guy there, and he's under contract of team friendly deal for the next couple seasons. Like you don't necessarily have to get a quarterback in this year's draft. You just don't.
And Jared Goff is not a bad quarterback. I don't understand where this notion of we're going to get C.J. Stroud with the 4th overall. Why? You got Jared Goff for a good, at least another 7 to 8 years, barring any injuries. Like, because Jared Goff's already, 27, 28?
I will pull up his age right now.
He came into the league at, 2016?
Jared Goff is 28. His birthday is in October. So he's 28.
You got Jared Goff for a good 7, 8 years still.
Yeah.
Right, like, unless the wheels just completely fall off.
I mean, Jared Goff's had some really good seasons as a member of the Los Angeles Rams. He just couldn't win the big one. And I mean, if you're the Detroit Lions, like this is a good offensive line. If you could build up this defense in this year's draft, you could have a team that wins the NFC North next year. I mean, we're going to get to Minnesota. We don't know what they're going to look like next season. We don't know what Green Bay is going to look like next season. Like this is a team that legit could win the NFC North next year. If there's a couple tweaks on the defensive side of the ball, they win the division.
There are a couple playmakers. Like they're a couple playmakers away, and I said that when they beat the Green Bay Packers. Like they already knew that their season was over. Like so, and I love Dan Campbell's mentality going into that game. He's like, well, if we can't go, I damn sure don't want them going. So they not go, and that's really how it should be. Like, hey, you ain't clinching the playoff spot on me. Not on me. I'm not going, kind sir. And when I said that they're a couple playmakers away, the group I'm in with Christian, this one guy comments like, you could say it about any other team. I'm like, I'm not talking about any other team. I'm talking about the Lions.
Those people are just so. I mean, and there are some players that they could cut to make some more money if they wanted to. Michael Brockers making $10 million as a backup defensive tackle. Romeo Aquara 7.5. Vaitai 6.5. Who's a guard? I'd be shocked if they cut pieces of this offensive line. And Charles Harris has become a backup defensive end. You could save $4 million by cutting him. But yeah, their big needs are at defensive tackle, quarterback, and then at safety in the back half of this defense. I actually kind of like Aiden Hutchinson and was it James Houston?
James Houston.
Like he had a solid end of the season there for them.
Yeah, again, you got one dude who, in my opinion, was my defensive rookie of the year, and then you got another dude who followed him up with 8 sacks by himself. Yeah. Again, like it was just, you look at how some of their games when you had that first game against Green Bay where you just literally made Aaron Rodgers' life a living hell, right? You won the game. What was it, like 15-3? Like it was terrible. He threw 3 picks.
Yep.
Like it was just God. And then you look at games like that first game against Chicago where Justin Fields looks unstoppable. Hey, he carved you up for like he got loose on you for like a 67-yard run or however long that run was. Right? And you got a game against Seattle where their offense lit you up. A game against the Eagles where their offense lit you up, and it's.
But those were like really good offenses this past season, so it's not shocking.
Well, the Eagles, yeah, like we knew that was coming. Seattle
at that time.
At that time, we didn't see that coming though.
But their offense was already putting up big points before they put up like 48 against the Detroit Lions. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to Detroit, Jameson Williams only played like 1 offensive snap this season. Like the dude was a megastar in college, and he's going to be fully healthy, as you talk about. You know, he spent that full season trying to rehab, trying to get better. This is the off season where he gets to work on his craft. He gets to become a better football player.
Bro, he caught that first touchdown, like his first play. He caught a touchdown. And I just sat there and I watched it. I'm like, we're going to have to deal with Aiden Hutchinson and Jameson Williams for the better part of a decade. I hate it here. I was like exaggerating the hate it here part, but I'm just like, yo, we're going to, as a Bear fan, we're going to have to deal with that for the next 10 years, minus barring any injuries. I'm not wishing injuries on anybody. But the foundation for the Detroit Lions is there. It's there, like
and they built it up in the trenches. They built this on a great offensive line that facilitates their offense.
Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, a bunch. Taylor, like the foundation's there. You just not have to Detroit line this thing up like you normally do.
So in the most recent mock draft, this one is from Chad Roeder. He has the Detroit Lions taking Christian Gonzalez, the corner out of Oregon, at 6. And then with their second first round pick, they have the pick of Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame, which I really like. If he's still there.
Michael Mayer,
the tight end from Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see him. I don't want to see Michael Mayer. Christian Gonzalez, like he falls into that West Coast bias because nobody's staying up to watch an Oregon football game late at night, right? Like nobody's doing that unless you live in Oregon. On the East Coast, those games start at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we going to sleep, right?
Maybe you go to sleep.
Like
you must be talking about the cornerback out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just talking about how the Lions should approach free agency in the draft. We held the Packers off until you got back. Welcome back into the show, CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Israel Rivera. We're breaking down the NFC North. First, let's talk about some top 3 priorities when it comes to Detroit Lions, and then we'll move on to the team that I can't wait to talk about with Izzy.
Defense. Yeah, that's my top 3 priorities. Defense.
I think I mentioned this before, man. Lions don't need much offensively, man. The offensive line is solid. They have two good tackles. They have a staple. They have a guy that I'm looking forward to in Penei Sewell in his 3rd year. I want to see how he's going to develop his 3rd year as a tackle. They got arguably have the best center in the league in Frank Ragnow. And then DeAndre Swift, was pretty solid this year. I know he still has, some injury issues. I would love to see him play a full slate of games to see, what he does. But when he's on the field, he's dynamite. Jared Goff was one of the best quarterbacks in the league this year. And we already know, Amon-Ra St. Brown, what he brings to the table. We already know we're really excited to see Jameson Williams. They got rid of T.J. Hawkinson, but I forget who that tight end was, David, that was playing pretty well in his absence. There,
Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, or James Mitchell. They have a bunch of
They have a whole bunch of makeshift tight ends.
Shane Giltra is the guy who caught that 3-touchdown game or 2-touchdown game.
In fantasy, and then he didn't do anything else after that.
Yeah.
Anyways, so defense, I'm with TJ, man. Defense, especially in the secondary, man. This team gave up they were in way too many track meets, way too many shootouts. I do like their two young edge rushers in Aiden Hutchinson and the other guy's name is James Houston. Escaping me. Both of them had James Houston had 8.5 sacks, if I'm not mistaken.
He only played the final 8 games, and he had a sack in every single game.
Yeah, a sack in every single game. So and also so big priority here: defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman. If they can spend a little bit of money, they got $13 million in cap space. I've talked to Lions fans; they would love to get Deron Pay.
Yeah, a lot of teams would like to have Deron Payne.
They would love to get Deron Payne. They would, and then also, like I said, DB help as well. And then, I would add another weapon on the outside. Like in the second round or so, if you can, second or third round, to get for Jared Goff. I know James Williams is going to come back healthy, but the more weapons you have on the outside disposed to Jared Goff, I think this team is going to make the playoffs next year. They were right there.
With the uncertainty of the rest of the teams in this division, I think they could potentially win it next season. We'll wait until we get to the offseason preview where we talk about the season preview. We actually pick what the records are going to be. But let's see what happens in Detroit. I agree with you guys. Yeah, defense has to be the priority for the Lions team. They're good on offense. Let's talk about Green Bay. This is our offseason preview for the Green Bay Packers. And yes, today Aaron Rodgers has left his darkness retreat earlier today. So I don't know exactly what that is, but apparently he's like in a building and there's no lights and
it's basically like a jail cell underground.
He's doing drugs and he's in the dark. Okay.
Basically, I love it.
They have their own first round, their own picks basically, and then they have a bunch of compensatory picks that I'm not sure why they have, but they have a bunch of 7th round picks. Yeah, I don't know why they have those, but and then they have a pick that came from the Detroit Lions from the Los Angeles Rams. I'm not sure why they have that either. But notable free agents: Adrian Amos, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, Robert Tonyan Jr., Big Bob Tonyan. There for the Green Bay Packers. They're negative in the cap space with negative 9.665. Matt LaFleur, Brian Gutsky is the GM. Mark Murphy is the team president. How do the Packers approach free agency in this draft? Let's talk about first. Before Izzy has his bonanza, what happens with Aaron Rodgers?
That's the first priority.
Yeah, for sure.
I said it, bro. Like I said it when they gave him all that money when they re-signed him. I'm like, y'all been through as an organization. Y'all been through this before when Aaron Rodgers. With Brett Favre. Y'all had a step-by-step how-to manual on how to not go through this situation again. And what makes it worse is this, David and Izzy. Brett Favre he put them through it for like 3 years. This is like year 5 of this stuff with Aaron Rodgers.
My patience is run thin with this guy.
Right. And and also what makes it also that much more ironic and hilarious is literally every fan of every team in this division, minus Packer fans, like we literally tried to tell y'all what Aaron Rodgers is. We've been trying to tell y'all for years. And y'all are just now coming around to seeing, damn it, those guys were right.
Oh,
regular season's fine. He's fantastic. But when you need him in that big game, where is he?
Well, I always used to say, I had a discussion about this earlier, just kind of getting heat up this right here, right? And I always thought like he had okay games. He played well enough for them to win, especially that Seattle game where they were up. But like it always came down to like defense and special teams for us, and that has to be taken into account as well when we talk about Aaron Rodgers led teams. The time that he had a top flight defense in 2010, they won a Super Bowl, right? You know, 2 years ago they were close to NFC Championship game, but they got plastered by the San Francisco 49ers. So, you know, Aaron Rodgers has played well enough in playoff games, you know, but he's just frustrating as all hell. I mean, just especially these last couple years. I mean, I will take Brett Favre's throwing interceptions over Aaron Rodgers throwing a little amount of interceptions. And I'll take Brett Favre over Aaron Rodgers all day, even though Brett Favre is a you know, questionable to say the least. Outside the field, but Aaron Rodgers has been completely frustrated. This dark retreat.
He is but no. Here's the thing. Like, so we look at this season, right, and we already knew coming into the season you were not going to have Devontae Adams, and they didn't change a thing. They didn't change the scheme. It's like you don't have this dude that racked up 1,500 receiving yards to throw to anymore, bro. Like you.
Well, that's my thing, TJ. You got the darkness retreat. Now I'm getting to it. You should have started the timer, David.
What is that?
You got the darkness retreat. He's done this for 3 years in a row. You knew that you were getting rookie wide receivers, right? So what the hell are you doing not working with these rookie wide receivers in the offseason? And then this season, you do the same damn thing. You go to Oregon, you go to this darkness retreat, you get high for I don't know how many X amount of days. Our quarterback's getting high, and he's in there, and he's in the dark. I don't know what you're doing out there. I don't know what you're doing. Is that going to help us win games? Is that going to help the wide receivers build a rapport with your young wide receivers like Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs? Hell no. I'm sick of this dude. I hope that they come to their senses and they say, look, you had a great career in Green Bay. Go ship him off to New York Jets. Ship him off to Timbuktu. I don't know where you ship him off. I'm ready for Jordan Love to start.
It's an issue though. It's an issue that you run into. Regime. It's an issue that you run into, and it's a big $60 million issue.
I mean, I know the Jets will trade for him, but that contract is just not easy to move.
It's a huge $60 million issue, and he's right about the rookie receiver thing. Like, we talk about it all the time. That first play against Minnesota in Minnesota, that beautiful bomb that Christian Watson dropped. And the first thing Aaron Rodgers tends to do, he puts his young receivers in the doghouse, not throwing to you anymore. Da. Well, whose fault is that rapport wasn't there? It ain't Christian Watson's. Christian Watson was at OTAs. He was at rookie minicamp. He was there, right? That's on you, Rodgers, to show up.
So Aaron Rodgers. So we gotta flip the cattle car here and talked about the priorities before, how they approach free agency in the draft. But like, their priorities, number one, has to be figured out: is Aaron Rodgers going to be here next season or not?
Is he committed? Where's the commitment?
Is he even committed to this team? Do you think Aaron Rodgers will be on this team when the season starts? Yes or no?
Yes. The draft capital and the money is not worth giving up for what? A year? 2 years of Aaron Rodgers?
Well, he's under contract for 3 or 4. I think he gets moved. I can't see a future.
He gets moved to Oakland. Vegas.
Man, that's the second time in 3 days you've done that.
I'm so sorry, guys. He's going. I think he gets moved to Vegas. I think at the end of his career, he's gonna need a wide receiver that he's the most comfortable with, right? And who is that wide receiver that he's most comfortable with? Devontae Adams, right? So I think that is the most likeliest place that Aaron Rodgers goes to is Vegas.
That's cool. But you also got to keep.
And I hope Max Crosby's involved in that deal, so we can get Max Crosby back.
You gotta keep him on. That's not a deal. That's not happening. That's not happening. I mean,
you can have Chandler Jones, who's been super effective.
We'll take him. We'll take Chandler Jones. Hopefully, he'll change. He'll have a better season than last season.
Check it out though. So, if I'm like, everybody wants to make fun of Devontae Adams, talking about you were there, then why'd you leave? Because I'm not finna deal. why you think he left? It wasn't the money. It's every year of Aaron Rodgers. Well, I don't know if I want to play. I don't know if I'm going to retire. It's not up to me. You're like, well, yes, it is, jackass. It is up to you. It's a yes or no question. Do you want to play in Green Bay? Yes or no? If you say yeah, then shut up. Stop all this hyperbole. Stop all this showmanship. Show your
jackass
ass up.
is the perfect word for him.
So let's talk about the other priorities for this Green Bay Packers team as they approach free agency and the NFL draft. They do have some pretty solid draft capital here. With all the if you're the Green Bay Packers, I mean, how are you approaching this year's draft?
I'm not wasting no time. I'm shopping that 15th overall pick. I'm trying to move up. I'm not wasting no time. I'm getting that tight end from Notre Dame. I'm not playing. I'm not wasting no time.
I'm getting Michael Mayer too. I'm hoping that they can get Michael Mayer. That's the words right out of my mouth.
The most recent mock
That's
draft
the only guy I want.
Packers have them taking Jackson Smith and Jigba, which I actually really like.
That would be an amazing pick. I'd take that. That's a great consolation prize.
That's fine.
But that's if they don't trade up, obviously.
But all that Big Bob Tunyon shit, I'm sorry, guys. All that Big Bob Tunyon stuff, I'm going to start calling him Big Bob Tunyon, okay? Packer fans, I'm going to start calling him that, okay?
He hasn't been good since his first season.
Yes. Yes.
Who has been saying that?
Stop, DJ.
Who's been saying that?
All right. So other than that,
I mean, the other priorities, this offensive line was kind of all over the place this past season. We got to offensive line, build up this.
David Bakhtiari, I think he's in his last legs.
I got to cut him.
Yeah, David Bakhtiari's got to go. But also a big priority is pass rush. Pass rush. This team, Rashawn Gary's, he's coming out. He's going to come off a major injury.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the hell if he's going to be like. Preston Smith is kind of looking old.
They could cut David Bakhtiari and save $6 million towards their cap.
That's all I was going to go to. That's all I was going to go to. I don't know how much to save.
They can cut Kenny Clark and save $4 million. They can cut Preston Smith and save $3.2 million.
I'm not cutting Kenny Clark. You don't have many options because you don't have much cap space. You got to keep Preston Smith. But you in the draft, you have to address the edge. You have to get more depth at the edge rush. If I'm not mistaken, Green Bay was at the bottom of half of the league in sacks, in quarterback pressures, and everything like that off of the edge.
And I think that's what's more disappointing about this Packer team this season, outside of the lack of commitment to the change of scheme. Because we talked about it weekly, how they should have been running the offense, run through those two monster running backs that you got, go through them. But defensively, we thought this team was going to be, forget top 10. We thought they was going to be like top 3, top 5.
Packers were bottom 5 in sacks with 34 sacks last season. They're only teams that had less sacks than the Green Bay Packers last season.
The Bears,
the Bengals, the Raiders, the Falcons, and the Bears. That's it.
Jesus Christ! And I remember profusely Izzy getting on here and ranting and raving about the new no-fly zone, and we made fun of him. But no. Hold on. I'm not trying to be funny, but we made fun of him. Because as a Bear fan, we man, ain't finna be no new fly zone like that. But but in his mind, he had every right to feel that way. What secondary? They have really good secondary. What secondary? Legit on paper, what secondary is better than Jair Alexander, Rasul Douglas, Adrian Amos, and help me out? Who else is back there?
You got Savage,
Eric Stokes,
Darnell Snipes. What secondary? What secondary?
Were first round picks. I mean, Darnell Savage.
They have 6 first round picks on. They have so many first round picks on that defense.
Defense.
Ray Walker, Devondre Campbell. I mean, Jaron Reed. I mean, these were all guys that were very high picks for Sean Gary. Obviously got hurt towards the end of the season, but
when Izzy said the new no fly zone, I'm like, all right, Rasul Douglas they stole him off the Cardinals practice squad. Sure. He's been phenomenal for them. Jair Alexander is a top 3 corner in the draft, 5 corner in the NFL,
depending on what list you're looking at. Yeah, sure.
Adrian Amos has been a solid safety since his rookie year. As a rookie, he was the signal caller for a Bears defense as a rookie.
He was great for the Bears.
Yeah. But yeah, so the other top 3, build his team up in the trenches. I guess we'll see what ends up happening with Green Bay. Any final thoughts on Green Bay before we move on to Minnesota?
Stop excuse my language. Stop being a little bitch. Like seriously,
Oh,
I'm no, like the Gutekunst, LaFleur, Mark Murphy. Stop being a little bitch. Seriously.
first of all, here's what I'm gonna say. If you guys don't get rid of Aaron Rodgers, right, and you want to go through another headache of 2 more years, then you have to trade Jordan Love, who has some type of value left, and you can get something for him back, at least
You could
a second rounder or a third rounder. You can get a lot for Jordan Love. There's a lot of teams that want him. Tennessee wants him. A lot of teams that need a quarterback, they want Jordan Love. They've seen Jordan Love. I would not go that route. I would be like, hey, we're gonna ship you out, Rodgers. It's the same situation, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. We're gonna find a nice student partner for you. We're gonna make sure you're comfortable. They're comfortable. We're gonna get a good value in that back, and we're gonna start with this young kid, Jordan Love, and see what the hell he's got. We wasted a first round pick on him. We have to see what he got, because that draft, if I'm not mistaken, if you weren't gonna use Jordan Love and know what he has in the third, fourth year, we could have went and got a wide receiver, and we refused to do that. So you have to know what you have to. It's kind of like the Trey Lance thing. You wasted 3 first-round picks. It's kind of like you almost have to play this kid, right? So Jordan Love, you almost have to play this kid. You have to see what he has, because you wasted a first-round pick.
As long as Aaron Rodgers is still there, I mean, he's under contract for 4 more seasons. Like Jordan Love, you're never gonna know. Like it's always gonna be like
never gonna know.
As long as Aaron Rodgers continues to be on the roster. Moving on from the Green Bay Packers to the Minnesota Vikings, the team that actually won this division last season. Their draft capital is not really quite there. They have a first, a third, a fourth from Detroit. I don't know why. I guess there was a flip in the T.J. Hawkinson trade. They have a 5th round, 2 5th-round picks, and that's a projected compensatory pick. I don't really know exactly what all that means, but the notable free agents: Alvin Tomlinson, who's a guard; Patrick Peterson, obviously future Hall of Famer; Garrett Bradbury, Irv Smith Jr., Greg Joseph, who won them a lot of games this last season. Projected cap space negative $24.42 million. And then Kevin O'Connell is the head coach, the GM. I tried to. Ketsi Alduve-Mensah is their GM, and Mark Wolf is the team president. How do the Vikings approach free agency and the draft? And before we get into it, their cap situation, obviously not particularly good. They do have some options in cut candidates. They could cut Eric Hendricks, inside linebacker, for 9.5. They could cut Harrison Smith for 7.5 million, and they could cut Adam Thielen and save 6.4 million, as he was sort of phased out.
That's probably the route they go. That's probably
Hey, remember a few years ago, you guys killed me and grilled me for saying Adam Thielen was the number 1 wide receiver.
I am not.
Forget about that.
But I am over, and he said this. He was the number 1 over Stephon Diggs at that. I am not letting. I am never letting you forget that.
This was disrespectful.
It's almost as bad as when the Houston Texans were going to go to the playoffs.
I never said that. I said that Jordan. I said that Davis Mills.
2 years ago, you said they go to the playoffs.
With Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I did say that. I did say that. Yeah, they won 4 games. This team. Back to
Minnesota. Let's see.
Patrick Peterson's not going to be there no more, though. I'll let you guys know that right now. He's gone.
Yeah, I think he out of that. I think he's gone.
He out of there.
I think Irv Smith Jr. is
out of there.
Gone. I think he out of that too.
They got T.J. Hawkinson. His role has been completely marginalized.
He gone.
And that's kind of unfortunate, because like you're thinking you're gonna have this decent 2 tight end set with Irv Smith Jr. on one side and T.J. Hawkinson on the other. And
Irv Smith Jr. never really recovered from that injury, and he never.
Right, that's what I'm saying. He can't stay on the field, and the offensive line has been a bit of an issue for some years. The defensive.
Outside of Christian Darrisaw and Ezra Cleveland on the left side, those guys have been awesome. Christian Darrisaw has been everything you could have thought of in a first-round pick, but it's that right side. It's really struggled.
If I'm Minnesota, another thing you guys got to mention, I would find a trading partner for Alexander Mattison. See if you get some value out of him.
I honestly would rather trade Dalvin Cook than Madison, because I think Dalvin Cook.
Madison?
Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook is he's constantly injured. I think he also has more value on the open market. I think you can get more back for him. And I would personally look to move Dalvin Cook. I think he gets hurt constantly. I think you can get those guys like those fringe draft pick guys that you can just start and have successful. As good as Dalvin Cook is, if I had to move one of those two guys, I would pick Cook over Madison.
Yeah, well, you tripping. You are. I need that. I need that pack. I know. I need that pack. I need that.
I don't know if I trade Dalvin Cook
as a team construction aspect, and as a team that needs to figure out their cap situation. Trading Dalvin Cook makes more sense than trading Madison. It just does.
I need that pack. I need the pack, bro. And if I feel like you holding back, we gonna fight. I need the pack.
I'm not wrong, man. I think about stuff like this. I would rather trade Dalvin Cook.
But you are wrong though. Yeah, you are so. I heard something very funny, and I forgot who said it, and I'm sorry because I can't give you the proper credit because I don't want to steal your quote. Well, I'm not stealing your quote because I said this is coming from somebody else. I just can't remember who said it. Do you want to know the difference between the Vikings and the Bears? You want to know the difference?
No.
The Vikings won their one-score games. The Bears didn't.
Yeah, that's it. That's why they got exposed in the playoffs. Their defense got run over and their offensive line sucked. That's why that's why I got bounced out of the playoffs for sure.
So I think this draft is full of pass rush galore. In this draft, you've been looking for that guy to put next to Danielle Hunter for years, and Danielle Hunter is starting to get up there now too. I look at this. I gotta go get one of those edge rushers. I don't know who's going to be around at pick 23.
So in the mock draft I've been referencing for the entire show,
yes.
Keon White actually ends up being the kid out of Georgia Tech, the senior edge rusher, because Brian Flores is their new DC. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, he is. Yeah. That was the first thing they did in the offseason. Kevin O'Connell, even though Kevin O'Connell calls the defensive plays, okay, the first thing he did was blame the defensive coordinator, and what happened? He got up out of there. Now you get Brian Flores, who's a strong personality, who got a bad rap. I'll say he got a bad rap in Miami.
No. He
got a bad end. No, not a bad rap. He got a bad end of the short end of the stick in Miami.
There you go. Thank you for correcting yourself. Good job.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Not bad rap. He got a bad short end of the stick in Miami. And so now you're basically bringing in a guy that has a head coach pedigree. You might want to be like, hey, go ahead and call the play, because if I call the plays again and we struggle on defense, then who's the real problem? Kevin O'Connell, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agree with you guys. You go with edge rusher. I always say around this time, if that kid out of Army's there, is it Andre Carter or whatever his name? I forget his name. Said 17.5 sacks his junior season.
The kid from Army, right?
Yeah, Army. Yeah, it's Andre Carter or something like Andre.
No, Kevin McConnell calls plays on offense, not on defense, for the Minnesota Vikings this past
Kevin O'Connell's he was a former quarterback, and he was actually, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he was calling plays on defense. But if I'm wrong,
you're wrong.
No, he's calling the offense.
Yeah, he was calling the offense.
I thought he was calling the defense. I thought he was calling the defense because that's what I was hearing, that this guy was calling the defense. I might have my coaches confused here. That might be. What's a quarterback? Is the former quarterback who's calling the plays on defense? Is that Zach Taylor? It can't be Zach Taylor. I thought it was Kevin O'Connell.
It's not Kevin O'Connell. So I don't remember who it is.
If I'm them, I don't know too much about the guy from Georgia Tech, and forgive me for that.
Yeah, me neither.
And again, it's not his fault. It's like Georgia Tech is every college football team is not going to be this 8, 9, 10 win powerhouse, right? You're going to get
6'5", 280, 3-star recruit coming out of high school.
everybody's not going to be. Everybody's not. And the ACC
7.5 sacks this past season as
and
the dominant edge rusher for Georgia Tech.
Right, so. And the ACC is kind of a down conference right now. Clemson wasn't the Clemson that we're used to. Notre Dame hasn't been the powerhouse for like 30 years now.
They're not even in that conference. So.
I'm exaggerating, but like they need to be. They're not going to do it because like the NBC deal that they get is fucking phenomenal. Yeah. Like they get 10-year deals at a time. Like that, I need their negotiating skills. Like that is amazing. If I'm the Vikings, I definitely gotta the trenches. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep building up the trenches till I get it right, which is honestly how it should be. I don't care
that's how a team like the Lions and this Philadelphia Eagles team that was so extremely dominant this past season, they built up these offensive lines and defensive lines, and then they let everything else fall into place around it. And that's how you should build a team.
And we already know that yes, even at the offensive line and the defensive line, even in the trenches, you're gonna have some swings and misses. It happens, right? It happens. Like, do you think the Eagles just hit on Lane Johnson and then Jason Kelsey and all those? Like, no, like I'm pretty sure they had. No, they did, but I'm pretty sure it took a minute for them to get the right combination. Right? It took a minute. All right, like let's not act like it was, just built overnight. Like, no, this shit takes. It's a process. Mm-hmm. They say Rome wasn't built in a day for a reason. So if I'm the Vikings. If I'm the Vikings, all right, I had a great season. To me, I had a great season. Came up short. Absolutely. I look at that playoff game against the Giants, and the first thing I do say is, all right, what did they kill us? In the trenches. We couldn't get to their quarterback, but they damn sure got to ours.
Yep.
Like Dexter Lawrence lived in my back.
Alexander Mattinson is actually a free agent, so if they want to keep him, they got to spend money on him.
They got to spend money on him. Yeah, you know what, guys? My fault. I was mixing up Chargers coach with Kevin O'Connell.
There you go.
Because there you go. He's the one he calls the defense, and he's the one that's on my shit list too. Anyways, because he's a former quarterback that's calling the defense. It's like, what the hell? I think
in New England we had a former defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator calling
offense. Yeah. Okay, so I got my wrong coaches, but anyways, I think this team definitely. Are we on 3 priorities? I think they definitely have to address the defensive side of the ball, and especially in the trenches. We've been talking about it the last 10 minutes. You need to build on that front seven. Also, you have to add depth in the in the defensive backfield. Patrick Peterson, who is a leader of that defense, he's probably gone. After this, in free agency, he's a free agent. So you're gonna have to get another young guy. And who else? And who steps up on that defense? That's gonna be a leader.
I think Lewis Cine was doing a very good stuff before he got hurt and missed the most of his rookie season. Same thing with Andrew Booth Jr. is another guy who was looking promising, who got hurt early and never played. Couldn't play again. Cameron Dantzler took a step forward from year 1 to year 2. This might actually be year 3 for him. Excuse me if I'm wrong about that. Duke Shelley, there, right?
Yeah, he was there.
So this secondary needs to be completely overhauled, and I still think that their offensive defensive lines need to be completely overhauled, and I think that's got to be the number 1 priority.
So you have a 1, you have a 3, you have a 4, a 5, 2 5, and 2 5s. That's it, right? So, and David, I see why you would say trade a Dalvin Cook. The question, and I understand why, because you can probably get a decent draft haul for Dalvin Cook. But the issue that you run into is, all right, trade Dalvin Cook, but to who?
Yeah, I don't. That's another thing. I don't know who needs a running back bad enough to give you legitimate compensation for him.
And
I did see a really crazy rumor that the Philadelphia Eagles, like if they decide to move off of all of their running backs and try to consolidate all of that into one guy, and they have the draft capital to make it work.
Gee, I didn't think about that. And
Miles Sanders is a free agent. He's probably not going to be back. You could take, a pick and make it a couple as the draft capital they have. I mean, because they've done so well with building that roster, they could legitimately trade for Dalvin Cook.
like, and when you look at the quote unquote tradable assets that they have, all right, in terms of value, Adam Thielen and Harrison Smith you can probably fetch the most for them because of the positions that they play. Like we're in the pass first era now. Like we've been in.
We're talking about Harrison Smith trading him away. You have nobody that immediately makes sense to replace him.
Right.
That's what the draft is for. At the same time, you can get. I feel like check it. Think about it. If you're a playoff team, right? If you're a playoff team,
you got like Minnesota. This team is currently constructed, has like 1 year where they could like really make a push at this because the NFC is getting better and their pieces are getting older.
So like if I'm a playoff team, because I'm not trading him within conference. That's just stupid. I'm not doing that unless the deal that you get from a playoff team in the NFC is just that, it's just that, you can't say no to it. I'm trying to trade him to one of those playoff hungry teams in the AFC. And I'm like, all right, what can you give me? And I'm like, if I'm Harrison, if I can get a second or a fourth, or maybe or another third in the fourth for Harrison Smith, you take that deal. If I can get I know for a fact I can get a second and a third for Adam Thielen. I know for a fact I can get that.
I'm not so sure.
A second and a third? Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know about a second, maybe a third.
I can get a second and a third. I can get a second and a third.
He's a bit over the hill. He's a bit over the hill for me, man. Yeah, offensively, man, they have all the weapons. I mean, you got Kirk Cousins. It's just, man.
That's the real priority. Like that's the priority that nobody wants to talk about.
I think eventually. I think we were talking about this next. I wouldn't maybe not this offseason, but next offseason, I think you look at moving on from Kirk Cousins. I mean, that tenure, that era has not exactly been as fruitful.
I just can't help. I legit think they wanted to move off of Kirk Cousins this past a couple seasons ago when they drafted,
and then they extended him, and it just never
because they had to. No, they had to. Like you draft the Kellen Mond, and they're like you ask Mike Zimmer, is Kellen Mond going to play? And Mike Zimmer says no. And then they ask Mike Zimmer why. He's like, I see Kellen Mond every day in practice. He's not ready. And it's like, damn, bro.
At that time, the season was already over. Like the season's over, you still don't want to play the guy. Find out if he can, yeah.
He's their backup quarterback, right? Kellen Mond is.
No,
he's gone.
He's gone, right? He's gone, right? He's gone. Yeah, I thought
Nick Mullins is their backup, who's also a free agent.
Nick Mullins, okay.
So
hey, that whole Kellen Mond. I remember Viking fans were saying like, "Oh yeah, Kellen Mond's gonna be the successor." I'm like, no, he's not.
I was high on Kellen Mond when he was coming out of college.
Right. To be fair, there were a lot of people high on Kellen Mond. Like, did he go to the farm? Did he go to the ideal situation? Probably not. I'm not. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he's not seeing anybody's field. Anytime soon.
He can't even make it into the XFL. Like it's rough.
Oh, you mean he can't make to the? He tried to get the XFL.
No, he flamed out in the NFL. That's usually where you go. I mean,
or the USFL.
Yeah.
Or back to college, being a coach's assistant.
Yeah, maybe.
That's where how Clinton Dix is now.
Minnesota, yes, we'll see what ends up happening here with Minnesota Vikings. The off seasons for all three of these teams that we featured in this week's episode or today's episode are really interesting. Like, what is Green Bay going to do? What is Detroit going to look like when we start the season next year? And what is Minnesota going to do in the off season? So, but yeah, thank you very much for joining us. This has been another one of our 2023 NFL offseason previews. We're down to just 3 divisions left. We got the AFC North, the AFC East, and the NFC East. So keep an eye out for that content. We're going to keep churning along. Please like, share, and subscribe. We bring you guys an episode basically every single day. So if you like content and you like watching, stuff about sports, we got you here at Prime Sports World. I'm your host, David On Point Hope, and my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins, and of course, the CEO of Prime Sports World, Mr. Israel Rivera. Gentlemen, what do we do here at the Prime, my friends?
We bring the heat. Can I just say, like, personally, I think this is like one of our best shows ever. Like, we've done a lot of shows. I think this is like probably like top 5, like best shows we've ever done.
Look, next time I'm coming on the high. I'm just playing. Guys. Anyways, see you guys later.
Y'all remember the meme, like the tweet I sent y'all? Like Pat, it was after the Super Bowl. It was like Pat Mahomes out there winning the Super Bowls on one leg, and my quarterback in a cabin in the woods smoking crack. I hate it.
I hate it here. Come on, Aaron Rodgers better be gone before next season, baby. Just saying, from your neighborhood Packer fan.
Hey man, when you throw that bonanza, I'm coming to the bonanza.
I hate it here.
I'll see you later, man.
I'll see you.
Peace, bro.